Hi, I'm Kim Matone, and this is an episode of our Matone Counseling and Testing's Raindrops on Roses. Today, I am here with Jen Band with Playing for Others and celebrating 20 years. And so I really wanted to have you on, partly because of that, and I think you're just an interesting person,
thank
too. Will you tell us in your own words what PFO is?
Sure, absolutely. So Playing for Others, or PFO, as most people call it, is a leadership training program that combines personal development, service, and the arts to foster leaders who are confident, compassionate, and creative. That is like the elevator speech of who we are and what we do. But when I really think about it, I think that Playing for Others is about bringing a community of people together, young people, teenagers specifically, but I think there's other circles and rings to the community of Playing for Others, in a safe space, in a place that is all about acceptance and inclusion, authenticity, helping the teens become the best version of themselves, so that when they leave our program, they are going out into the world and they're seeing it in a different way than maybe a teen who didn't get to experience something like PFO.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times they do spoken word. Mm-hmm. They actually do some artwork that's in some galleries and stuff. And I've been to those. And yeah, I've had two teens come out of the program. And although, I, of course, felt very highly of my children, I was almost in shock when they performed.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know how well they did. I want to know how you are able to empower kids and find that little bit of talent when a lot of times they show up and they don't think they have any talent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, right? Because I think that a huge part of what we do is helping teens find their voice, right? And actually using their voice in a lot of different ways, whether that is an actual voice for spoken word or a visual artist or performer in any way. And I think that it all starts with the confidence, right? Like I think as a young person, the developmental question you're asking yourself is, who am I? And also looking at everyone's looking at me, and yet I'm trying to figure out sort of who I am in this world and what I want to do and how I want to show up. What do I value? All of those things. And so when a teen comes into the program, sometimes they come in and they are like, I'm not a performer. I don't do spoken word. I don't do this. I don't do that. And we say, well, actually, we think you do. We see it in you. And so, a teen's first year, there's a lot of everybody around them is pouring into them. Returning teens are pouring into new teens. There are adult advisors that work with the kids. They're pouring into the kids, the staff pouring into the kids, right? Everybody is pouring in. Everybody is saying, you're valuable, you're worthy, your voice is important, you matter. It matters that you're here. It matters that you came, all of those things. So a teen can at first be like, I mean, really? Is this for real? Are you sure? And then as time goes on, you can start to see their self-confidence cup really start to fill. So that then when it comes time for performance, the performance side of things, it becomes a lot easier to say to a teen, I think you can do this. You've got this in you. I know you can do this. It's time for you to give it a shot. What do you say? And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, the teen is like, really? Okay, I'll try it. And then the next thing you know, they're on stage. And then through the process of preparing for the performance, we're teaching them about standing in your power, using your full voice, expressing yourself with your body language, all of those things. And as they're doing it in a safe space, which is key. That part is critical, right? So every time that they're rehearsing something or they're working on an art piece, they're getting positive reinforcement. And when they fail, we're celebrating that. And we're saying, yes, we love that. Fail forward, always fail forward. So by the time they get up there, they're surrounded by their fellow peers in a safe space that is super positive. They know what it feels like to fail. It's okay. And they get up and they do the thing to,
Mhm.
you know, an incredible response from the
Mhm.
audience. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. What were you like as a teenager?
Oh my gosh. Wow. I haven't been asked that question in a minute. So I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia.
Mhm.
And it was a small little town in the middle of two mountains. So in order to get to the town, you had to like go over the mountain, and then there was Elkins where I'm from, and then there's another mountain.
Oh, you're from Elkin?
Elkins, West Virginia. Yes,
Okay.
Elkins. Yeah, yeah. There's an Elkin too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so growing up in West Virginia was hard. It was, you know, I often equate it to when my nephew 1 year for Christmas was all excited because he got a new pair of headphones, and they were like the old school headphones that had like the foam.
Mhm.
Do you remember those? Like, right. And meanwhile, everybody else was getting like an iPod and earbuds. And so it's like West Virginia at that time, when I was growing up in the 80s, just felt really behind. And not only behind in terms of what was going on in the world, but also behind in a lot of thinking and a lot of values. And it was never a place that I felt like I fit.
Mhm.
Right. And so I spent a lot of my teenage years trying to be something that never quite felt right to fit in. And it wasn't until I went to college, went out of state, and then ultimately went down to Florida to work at a camp in the summer that I felt like, oh, like this is me. This is how I show up in the world. This is how I express myself. This is what I value. And it felt okay. Versus growing up as a teenager, it felt like, I don't know. It didn't feel okay. It didn't feel safe to be who I authentically was.
Mhm. So you feel that influenced you?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, people say, right, like you become the person you needed when you were younger. You create the space you needed when you were younger. And I think now, especially 20 years later with PFO, I can absolutely see like this is the thing that I wish I had as a teenager and would have been significant in terms of my own growth at that age.
Yeah. So 20 years, a lot has changed.
Yes,
In 20 years.
a lot.
How have teens changed? How have you seen them change and stay the same?
That is a great question. Just the other day, actually, a parent emailed me. Her daughter is graduating this year, and she was talking about when she first started PFO. Her daughter is of the generation where she was in middle school when the pandemic hit. And all of the issues and challenges with isolation and mental health and all of that. And I think that there's a really big difference. There's sort of a before and an after when it comes to the 20 years of PFO and teens and specifically their mental health, how they're able to socialize, how they're not able to socialize, how they struggle with talking to adults, how they don't know how to have conversations without having a phone in their hand, right? So there's a really distinct difference between those two periods. I think that now the influence of social media is huge. I think on the not great side, there's been a massive decline in mental health with the kids that we serve. We get a lot of references from therapists and counselors and psychologists and all of that, which is incredible. And also it brings its own set of challenges because then as staff and advisors, like we have to be sort of prepared in a very different way than maybe we were, 10, 15 years ago. On the flip side though, teens now are very open about their mental health, very open about, I see a therapist, I love my therapist, which that's incredible. I think also the way that teens are talking about each other, diversity, difference, like they're a lot more open, a lot more accepting, a lot more curious. I think that curiosity is so important versus before it was like kind of not like if someone was different in whatever way, it kind of wasn't talked about. It just was kind of ignored versus now kids being more curious and more courageous, honestly, like willing to ask questions of each other because they want to learn more. They want to understand. So good and bad, right? On either side. But I would say the biggest difference is the impact of the pandemic, the impact of social media, and just in general, the decline of teen mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, what advice would you give to parents of teens now?
Mm. Yeah, I think the greatest advice that I would give to parents of teens is find a village. Find a village. Find a village. Find a village. I think teens now need a safe space, need a village, need positive peers in their lives more than ever. And I think there are, like, I've seen so many parents sort of come into Playing for Others and, at first kind of not sure and do I trust, right? Like there's a lot of, like, we have to earn a lot of trust in what we do. And then once they do and they sort of get all in, the benefit, not just for their teen, but for their entire family is significant. And I think that, the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. I think that's very true.
Yeah.
And I think in like this day and age, finding that village that is safe, that has your teen's best interest at heart, that is going to both wrap them in a lot of love and support, but also challenge them, also hold them to a high standard, also ask them to expand their comfort zone, to take risks, is really important. And when I hear from teens now in terms of other, groups that they're in or whatnot, they're not experiencing necessarily that safe space. They're not necessarily experiencing that community, that positive culture, all of that. And then they often talk about, when I come to Playing for Others, I immediately know I'm safe. And that word comes up over and over and over again. Like they just want to feel safe. They just want to feel safe. And so I think you can't do it alone. I think we're not supposed to do it alone as humans, right? And so being in community is critical, and being in a positive community is the best.
Yeah. Where do you see PFO growing? And where do you see yourself in 10, 20 years? Yeah.
Oh my
Good
gosh,
question.
another 10, 20 years from now.
Big question.
Yeah. So I think with, it's interesting. I don't know a lot of people who have started something and stayed with it for 20 years. Like I know a fair amount of founders, but they've also moved on.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've seen a lot of is a lot of people who start something because they love the programming side of it and they just want to do the programming side of it and they don't love the business side. And the reality is running a nonprofit it's a business, right? It's not for profit, but it's still a business and you still have to be able to do the business side of things. And so they'll start it, they'll do it for 5, 6 years, they'll hit that tough mark, right? In the 8, 9, 10 years, and get burned out and don't want to do it anymore. And I think that, one of the things that I want is I don't want Playing for Others to end with me. Like when I'm done and it's time for me to move on, it's time for me to retire, whatever that may be, I don't want Playing for Others to sort of fizzle and fold. And so right now, the work is all about how do we ensure that Playing for Others exists far past my life. And so honestly, the work in the next 10 to 20 years is succession planning. It's who steps in. It's how do we build the donors? How do we build the relationships? How do we build the support? How do we ensure that we're putting all the policies and all the procedures and all the risk assessment, all those kinds of things into place now so that Playing for Others outlives me, outlives you, outlives the next successor, et cetera. And that is a different kind of work than I've done for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Tell me, so the reason I've named this podcast Raindrops on Roses, Sound of Music.
Yes.
Loved it. I've been surprised how many people have not seen The Sound of Music.
What?
I know. that I've interviewed. I'm like,
unacceptable.
what? Yeah, it is. It's like that was their homework. But so that song, a few of my favorite things, these are just really is a song that comforts me. so a lot about resilience and hope, comfort. What is a movie or TV show or song that does that for you?
Oh, wow. Okay, so my background is in theater, so I received my BFA in theater and with an emphasis in children's theater. So I thought I was going down the children's theater path. And obviously that didn't happen when Playing Feathers was born. But musical theater is still sort of at the nearest and dearest place in my heart. And if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would be involved in some way, probably as a director in terms of musical theater. And there are several songs from a lot of different shows that I go to when I need something different. And I'm trying to think like specifically because it depends on what kind of comfort I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Recently, sort of in a very similar, not similar musical theater vein. But one of the things that I really enjoy doing is when I'm like working on a craft or a new hobby or whatever, I really enjoy listening to Disney in the background. And recently I've been going back over and over again to Beyond from Moana.
Okay.
And I know, right? It's odd, but there's something, it is very much a song that feels like I'm on the edge and I'm going to go beyond that and sort of seeking what's beyond. It's a very visionary song. The image in the movie, she's standing on the edge of a boat and she's like looking to see sort of what's beyond the horizon. And I think always having something that is reminding me not only to be present in the moment, I think that's so important, but also to remember to continue to stretch, to continue to grow, to continue to want to be better, to do better, to up-level PFO, up-level the kids' experience, up-level my own personal growth. And that's what that song, it's like a comfort to me of like, sometimes it feels when you're in the middle of it, because running a nonprofit is hard. It just is. The reality is it's hard. There's a lot of different demands on you. You're responsible for a lot of different things and relationships and all of that. And so having something that helps me get out of that and sort of beyond, as the song, is comforting. It's comforting for me.
Yeah. I like it. I'm going to have to watch that.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about resilience and hope in your life and your own experiences.
Yeah. Ooh. I think that resilience for me came, like a sort of really big lesson around resilience came for me at a pretty young age in terms of like my entire life now. When I was a freshman in college, I knew I didn't want to go back to West Virginia because I didn't want to be in that environment. And so I applied to and was accepted to work at a camp in Florida called the Boggy Creek Camp. And it's a camp that Paul Newman started, and he started several of them. Now they exist all over the world, and they are camps for kids with chronic and terminal illnesses. So every single week is a different disease. And so as a counselor, you learn the medical, emotional, social implications of working with kids who have cancer, AIDS, HIV, sickle cell, rheumatoid arthritis, spina bifida, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you like have these huge trainings before the kids come. And then the kids come, and you kind of forget all about the diagnoses and you're just like there with kids. And that's true most of the time. But then there are times that the reality really sort of hits you. After meal times when the meds come out is a good example. At night, when the kids are struggling to go to sleep the day before they have to leave to go home. But I think one of the weeks we were working with my group, the Yellow Unit was working with young girls, who had cancer. And one of them, was really struggling with the wig that she was wearing. And, we're in Florida and we're going to the pool every day and she's wanting to wear her wig and hadn't been away from home before all this had happened. And, And we went back to the cabin after going to the pool one afternoon, and you could just see she was just like super struggling and uncomfortable and itchy and like all the things. And we get back to the cabin, and another little girl, and by little, I mean these were like middle school, early high school age kids.
Okay.
And we get back, and she's sitting on her bunk, and she's like trying really hard not to cry. And so I go over and sit down, and we're sort of chatting about what's going on and whatever. And another girl sort of hears part of the conversation. And she comes over and she was like, listen, if you don't want to wear the wig, just take it off and be free. At which point she grabs a hold of her own wig and like throws it up in the air and just screams, right? Like was like, what? It was the funniest. And all the girls like started like applauding and cheering, and the other girls that wore wigs started taking off their wigs. And so the next thing you know, like all these girls are like dancing around, like without their wigs on, like still dripping wet from the pool, right? And this little girl that I'm sitting with sort of slowly was like, I'm not sure. And then slowly like pulls off her wig and is kind of freaked out, right? And the other girls are just cheering and laughing. And we turn on some music and everyone's just dancing. And I was like, that moment to me was like such a lesson in like, here are these kids, young kids, right? That are dealing with something that is way bigger, than, I didn't get a part in a play or whatever. They're literally dealing with something life-threatening. And they're not only finding a way to sort of celebrate that, but also like lifting others up in the process. And I think often when I am struggling in my own personal life with something, I think back to those camp moments, and there's so many more stories just like that one. And I think back to those, and it's like, okay, like if they could handle this at that age and that big of a thing, I can certainly handle this too.
Right.
And so I draw a lot of inspiration from my time in camp for sure.
Yeah. I like that. All right.
Perfect.
Because I wanted to ask you.
Yes, that's the only thing. Yeah.
How do the kids apply
Absolutely
to become a member of PFO for next year?
Yeah. So we work with rising 8th through seniors in high school. So you have to be within that age group. We have teens from all over Charlotte, and I mean all over. So at this point, I think this year there are teens from 27 different schools. And that's important, that diversity piece and getting to meet teens you otherwise wouldn't and all of that. So we only accept teens once a year for the following season. Applications will be open from May 1st to May 15th. It is a 2-week window, and that is it. So applications go May 1st to May 15th. And you can find the application on our website, playingfeathers.org. Once a teen applies, then we set up an in-person interview. And that's just a chance for us to get to meet them in person, meet parent or guardian that comes with them, because somebody does need to come with them, and just have a conversation about, this is what we do, this is who we are. Is this something that you want for your family, not just for your team, but for your family? And then we talk about the logistics in terms of dates and commitment and all of that. And then we make decisions. So it's not about a teen coming in being ready. In fact, we love when kids come in that are not already outgoing and already, all the things. We very much love when they come in sort of on the other side of that. And so we make decisions based on how many slots we have in any given year, because once a teen comes in, they tend to stay year over year. And so we sort of look at all the factors, and then we'll make decisions. Interviews are in early June, and we'll make decisions before kids are out of school mid-June. That way they're ready for the big annual retreat, which happens in August.
Okay. And you offer scholarships too.
Yes, we are a need-blind organization. That means that we accept families before we know what they're able to do of the program fee. And we have families that pay the full amount, and we have families that pay very little of it. It's important, it's critical to not only PFO, but the culture in that everybody is welcome, everybody is accepted.
Mhm.
And we will figure out the financial side of it. And we also are so grateful and blessed and lucky that we have so many incredible sponsors and donors and people who believe in what we do that help offset and donate towards the scholarship fund.
It's great.
Matone Counseling and Testing being a big one.
Yes, we've been a supporter.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, great. Well, thank you for coming, spending time with me. And I'm glad you all joined and listened, and check out Playing for Others. And if you're a teen, it's really a really good chance to have some fun, meet other people, and just improve on leadership skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kim.